So down to primers. There's a whole bunch of primers out there. I do like Vallejo's primer. I do like these polyurethane type primers or polymer primers. It's just a different type of paint to your normal acrylic paint. It's still kind of acrylic based, but it's got all this polyurethane stuff in it. I don't know the exact science. It just makes a good surface to stick to the model, to allow all your paint afterwards to stick onto the primer. It just makes the surface really nice and smooth. There are some slightly downsides to it. I do find that a lot of these types of paints, whether it's Vallejo, AK, Ammo, they can get a little bit bitty and dry up quite sort of rock hard and stuff. If you've ever sort of had one of these tubs and you've left it for a while, it can be really rock solid to sort of open these up, which I suppose is kind of good for a primer for it to be rock solid, but as I say, it can get a bit bitty. So what I've already done, I've already shaken this off camera. I've thrown a couple of ball bearings in there because it does separate. Shaked it really well, and I've left it. It's been left for like about 10 minutes. Because what you want to happen is, if there is any bits in there, which there normally is after you've shaken it, all the bits, gravity will send them down to the bottom. So when we pour this into our colour cup, we should just have some nice paint with no bits in it. Fingers crossed. Also, then there's thinning. You can just use normal thinners to thin it. These are thin enough to sort of almost sort of get away with spraying them neat, but I do like to thin them a bit better because it just goes through the airbrush a lot nicer and you have less problems of blockages and stuff. So I do like to thin it, again, maybe around about 60% paint to 40% thinners. However, I have found that with the polyurethane paints is, once you've sprayed it down, you need to leave it for a good 24 hours for it to properly dry, go rock hard and cure before you do any alterations to the model. What I mean by this is, when we spray this primer down, we're going to see this model, what it's going to look like when it's finished, i.e. when it's got paint on it. We're going to see all our seam lines that we've sanded, all our recessed rivets, rescribing of panel lines and everything, all the filling work and stuff we've been doing on this. We're going to see whether or not it's good or not, right? So we spray the primer on, we'll look at it and it's either going to be good, or we maybe need to do a touch up there or a touch up there. If we need to do that, we need to leave it 24 hours. But if you know that you want to sort of, you know, maybe like leave it to dry for like half an hour or an hour and want to work on it, using the polyurethane stuff, it's gonna sort of, it kind of rubs away like rubber. It kind of just kind of crumbles away. It doesn't sand away quite properly. So if you do want to be messing around with it the same day, I'd recommend not using normal thinners, but actually go into the good old multi-surface wax pledge floor cleaner, whatever they call it these days, all that kind of type. I mean, who is it again? You've got Alclads. They do a gloss coat that is very similar to the floor cleaner. Mix it, you know, the 60% paint to 40% this, and it does actually work rather nicely. It allows it just dries it a lot quicker. You can sand it pretty much as soon as it's sort of touch dry. Really good, and it thins it at the same time. Right, so we're going to pour this in first. Alright, so we're gonna be priming, so we may as well get, you know, a nice amount in here to get started, or whatever you're happy with. Pour this in as well, giving us that mixture. Now I've got ball bearings in here, so it's going to stop it coming out. So just bang it to pop it out, and then it should go in. And then we're going to get out the old paintbrush and give it a good mix. Alright, so this should be a nice thin mixture to spray with. If it's a hot day as well, a drop of flow improver in here, or even retarder in here, will help you with hot days. Alright, so that's looking nice and mixed. Alright, again, let's get out the kitchen paper towel. And what we want to do, just quickly sort of spray it on our kitchen paper towel, see how that's coming out. And then we want to start off with the good old usual, let's just put a light misty coat down. So I'm just going to do this little bit here just to show you on camera. Right, it's coming out nice, light and misty. Alright, so you can hardly sort of see how it's gone down. Right, you can sort of hold it underneath if you want. Sometimes I like to just like spray the top, let it dry, and then do the top just so I can actually hold the model and rotate it and stuff. But as you can see, that light misty coat, you can't even hardly tell that's gone down. Even where the black is, it's not really sort of got much coverage. It's just that little bit of paint that goes down first just helps all your other coats just stick that little bit nicer. And as I say, press down the trigger and we just get air coming out, and that should be sort of pretty nice and dry. And then we can come in with a bit more of a light coat. And what we're looking for is just as soon as you see it's just getting wet, just move along. Don't let it pool up and get wet at all. Keep on moving. Now, as I say, I mean, the downside to these sort of polymer urethane paints is they can dry up quite quickly on the end of the airbrush. So you might notice that it kind of dries up on the end of the tip and it can just like splutter out a little sort of blob of dried paint. I have noticed one little bit just gone down there. Just don't touch it, just let it dry. You could just give that a tiny little sand, I'll show you that later, a little bit of a sand, and then just give it a quick wee spray and it looks absolutely new. But if we start going off now trying to pick it off, we're going to smudge it and we're going to have some sort of fingerprint smudge or something on there. Just leave it, let it dry. We'll tackle that later. But that light coat now, we can sort of see something going down, and it does dry really quickly. I mean, I can just cut to air now and probably come in with another light coat. Right, so just going over with another light coat, and we should be able to see some sort of paintwork coming together now. Right, hopefully you just sort of can see. I don't know how well you're sort of going to pick it up on camera, because actually the colour of this is actually so close to what the actual colour of the plastic is. But that is just looking so much more nicer. I'll probably give that another coat and that should be sort of all good to go really. So I've got to basically go off now, spray all these different little pieces and stuff, which should take quite a bit of time to get it all sprayed. Don't forget, you know, we are spraying face masks, extractor fans, windows open, you know, all the usual sort of safety things just to make sure we ain't breathing this all in, because there's quite a bit of primer that needs to go down. So there is the finished bit of spraying. Let's just close the iris just to so you can see it a little bit better, because it does shine up in the light. Basically, it's one of these products where once you've sprayed it and you kind of feel it, you can kind of, it just feels so nice and smooth. I just love the way it feels once you've actually got it down. Now actually, after spraying it, as I say, you want to be able to like check and see all the work you've done, all that scribing and stuff. And you should be able to see it a hell of a lot better. I'm able to look at this now and I can sort of see basically all that hard work I've been doing has actually sort of paid off, because I can see it all now. Now I have noticed that just at the front here we had a join line, right, and I could sort of see now I've got it sprayed down. It's not like a gap, but it's a bit more of a little bit of an indent. I've already just quickly gone over, got some plastic putty, because it's nice and quick, because I'm about to sort of leave now, so I haven't got time to really sort of go into it. So just as a quickie, I've just quickly put some plastic putty on where it sort of dips in, and then just leave that overnight. Tomorrow I'll give it a sand and see how that works. I'm not sure it's going to work that well, but it's just a quick sort of see if it works. If it doesn't, there is another technique I like to use with them. Now I did mention as well is you can potentially have like maybe little bits of dried up paint sort of splatter onto your model, which is a bit of a pain because we've gone through all that trouble to make sure we've got no hairs or bits of debris. And I did have a little one just here. I don't think you're going to pick that up on camera, but there is like a little faint bit of a blob of dried up paint that splurted out a little bit, and a little one there. Trust me, they are there. To get rid of these, it is quite sort of simple really. Sanding sticks, although you might not be thinking sanding sticks on paint, as long as you keep the grits really sort of fine, it won't be such a big deal. Now this has had maybe about an hour to dry. As I say, if we didn't use the Pledge floor cleaner, we would be in a little bit of a trouble because we'd have to leave this for 24 hours at least, even 48 hours to dry properly, because our surface primer, when you sand at it, it can sand like sanding at rubber, and it kind of sort of just goes all funny. It doesn't sand nice, it doesn't turn into sanding dust, shall we say. But because we've used the floor cleaner, we can sand at this. Now I've got here an old skinny stick. Now this is a grit that would be too much of a high grit. It would sort of leave scratches, because it's used, the grit sort of gets sort of worn down and it becomes more finer, so we can get away with using it. Because it's a sanding stick, we can just target exactly where that little bit is, and it does just go pretty quick. I mean, I've only got to give it a little bit of a rub, right, and those little blobs are gone. Right, that's it, done. Although I mean, it's could do with sort of just be on the safe side. I do have these sanding sticks. These ones are for kind of like, if you remember, sort of buffing up canopies, to make canopies shine up like glass. To come back with these, they're really fine sanding sticks, just to sort of give these a little bit of a quick sanding over. We'll just sort of it doesn't sand all the paint away. It's not as if all the primer's gone. It just sort of gives a light sort of sanding, buffs it up, and it just makes it all nice and smooth like the rest of the model. And then after doing a bit of work like that, and then after sanding this area here, after we've done all that sort of sanding and stuff, sadly it's sort of like we're kind of stepping back. You might want to sort of go off, because we've got done sanding, we're going to have sanding dust. Get out the old toothbrush. Alright, just give it a little bit of a rub, make sure we've got nothing in our recessed panel lines and rivets. Give it a wipe down. Probably avoid the IPA now, because we know we've got no grease on here. That's kind of like what the IPA was for. It's for just getting that up. So probably kitchen paper towel, right, a slightly moist with clean water or something, and just maybe sort of like just rub these areas where you've done that bit of sanding work, and then just go off, get a little bit of primer and just a little bit of a spray just there, boom, done. And that should be all really nicely primed up and sort of ready to go to move in to doing pre-shading, all that kind of stuff. I might try something a little bit different with this actually. I've just got to get this work done, and we'll see how we go with this filler here as well.